Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. Dr. Richard was a renowned surgeon in New York, admired not only for his steady hands in the operating room, but also for his compassion and unwavering dedication to his patients. Despite the relentless hours and the heavy pressure of his career, he always carved out time for his wife, Laura, the woman he adored. To him, Laura was more than a spouse. She was his refuge, his safe harbor away from the storms of hospital life. Together, they had built what looked like a perfect marriage, one that many envied. To the outside world, they appeared inseparable, successful, deeply in love, and unshakably united. But, as life often does, an unexpected trial soon shattered their seemingly idyllic world. Laura began to feel unwell. At first, it was only fatigue and discomfort, symptoms easy to dismiss as stress or the lingering effects of a seasonal flu. Yet, as weeks turned into months, her health steadily declined. Everyday tasks became draining, her strength faded, and hospital visits for tests and treatments became frequent. It was during one of those visits that the devastating truth emerged. Laura suffered from advanced kidney disease. Her kidneys were failing, and her life was hanging by a thread. The diagnosis struck Richard like a bolt of lightning. A man who had spent his life saving others was now powerless in the face of his wife's suffering. Doctors warned that without a transplant, Laura's chances of survival were slim. For Richard, the decision required no thought. Without hesitation, he offered one of his own kidneys. Colleagues urged him to reconsider, cautioning him about the dangers and the toll the surgery would take on his own health. But Richard refused to listen. To him, Laura's life was worth any sacrifice. "I'll do whatever it takes," he told her firmly. It wasn't simply about being a husband. It was about the promise he had made. In sickness and in health, the days before the operation were a blur of tests and preparation. As a surgeon, Richard understood the risks, but this time he wasn't in control. Lying on the operating table, not as a doctor but as a patient, was humbling. The surgery went smoothly, and when Richard awoke, his first words weren't about himself. They were about Laura. The moment he heard she was recovering well, tears filled his eyes. In the weeks that followed, Laura regained her vitality. Her color returned, her laughter echoed to their home again, and Richard felt renewed hope. To him, it had all been worth it. He believed their love had been reforged through sacrifice, that their bond was now indestructible. What he didn't know was that the deepest wound was still ahead. As months passed, Richard began noticing unsettling changes in Laura's behavior. The warmth that once defined her presence seemed to fade. She grew distant, distracted, and indifferent. Where once she greeted him with affection, now she came home late with vague explanations about work or friends. Conversations dwindled into cold silences. It felt less like she chose to be with him, and more like she was tolerating his presence. At first, Richard tried to rationalize it. He told himself she was still adjusting to recovery, that the surgery and trauma had left emotional scars. He reminded himself of their love, convincing his heart it was temporary, but the cracks only widened. Then came the night that destroyed him. While Laura had dozed off mid-text, a notification flashed across her phone. The name caught Richard's eye. Steve, a colleague. With trembling hands, he unlocked her phone, half praying he'd find nothing suspicious. But what he found crushed him. The messages were intimate, playful, and filled with confessions of love. Steve wasn't just a co-worker. He was her lover. The late nights, the excuses, the distance, it all made sense. The room spun. His chest tightened as tears blurred his vision. This wasn't just betrayal. It was devastation. He had given her everything. His love, his loyalty, even a part of his body to save her life. And yet, she had betrayed him in the most unimaginable way. One quiet evening, Richard confronted Laura. Standing in the same living room where they had once shared so many happy memories, he held up her phone, his voice trembling. "Why, Laura? After everything we've been through, why would you do this?" Her response was chilling. With cold composure, she looked him in the eye and said, "I won't lie, Richard. I've been unhappy for a long time. I don't love you anymore." Her words struck like a physical blow. Searching her face, He no longer saw the woman whose life he had saved, only a stranger. "After everything I sacrificed for us, for you feel no remorse?" he asked, broken. Laura only shrugged. "I didn't ask you to give me your kidney. That was your choice. Don't use it against me now." Her words sliced deeper than the affair itself. His sacrifice, his devotion, his love, all dismissed as meaningless. Anger and heartbreak consumed him. He realized their marriage could not be saved. Filing for divorce wasn't born of rage alone, but of survival. He could not remain bound to someone who had shattered his trust so thoroughly. The legal process was agonizing. Yet, in court, Richard shocked everyone with a demand no one saw coming. Standing before the judge, he spoke of the kidney he had given Laura, the organ that had saved her life. "Your Honor," he said, voice heavy with grief, "if she could not honor our marriage, then she does not deserve the part of me I gave to save her." The courtroom fell silent. Everyone was stunned. Of course, such a request was both medically impossible and legally unprecedented. But Richard's plea wasn't about legality. It was about justice. It was the cry of a man who had been broken. Realizing the impossibility of reclaiming the organ, Richard demanded $1.5 million in compensation instead. That kidney gave her a second chance, he declared. If it cannot be returned, then its value must be acknowledged. My sacrifice cannot be dismissed as nothing. News of the case spread like wildfire. Social media exploded. Some saw him as a heartbroken hero. Others labeled him bitter and vengeful. Imagine giving up part of your body to save someone you love, only to be discarded, one supporter wrote. But critics argued, a gift is a gift. You can't demand it back when love fades. Inside court, his lawyers painted the picture of a man whose selfless act was repaid with betrayal. They spoke of the physical and emotional toll. Laura's lawyers countered that a gift, even an organ, could not come in conditions. They portrayed his demand as spiteful punishment. When the verdict came, the courtroom held its breath. The court recognizes Dr. Batista's emotional suffering. The judge said, "But the law is clear. A kidney donation is an act of selflessness, not a transaction. It cannot be undone nor assigned a monetary value." The ruling struck Richard like another cruel blow. He sat motionless, the reality sinking in. He had lost not just his wife, but the last hope for justice. As the courtroom emptied, he sat in silence, memories flashing before him. The love, the surgery, the brief joy of recovery, and the crushing betrayal. The kidney was no longer just an organ. It symbolized his devotion, his sacrifice, his life with Laura. Dr. Richard's story stands as a painful reminder. Even the greatest act of love can be met with betrayal. It is a story of devotion, sacrifice, and the devastating cost of broken trust. And while his wounds may never fully heal, his resolve to move forward remains a quiet inspiration to all who hear his tale.